Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Pricie here, back with some more World of Tanks footage for you today. Today we are in this little thing here, the Soviet Tier 5 premium tank destroyer, the SU-85i. It's a bit of a funny old thing. It's really a bush lurking sort of TD. Doesn't have much in the way of frontal armour, doesn't really block or bounce shots. It's not an aggressive TD, only has 380 hit points. Even though it's only tier 5, that's really not a large chunk of health. It hasn't really got a lot in the way of hit points to trade for damage. So you need to play it in quite a conservative way. Play it in a way like sort of a Nashorn, something like that. A German TD needs to be quite campy, lurky, bushy. But for the most part, not aggressive in any way. You can't really spearhead an attack with it or use it as a sort of an assault gun. So apologies in advance to everybody watching the replay. It is a good game, but as I say, apologies. It is a kind of a bush campy TD. So there's going to be lots of bushes camped this game. So some of the action, it's a bit slow to get going. The start of the game starts off a little bit slow. We're on Prokhorovka, I believe that's what the map's called. I'm not very good with Russian place names, but something like that. Anyway, it's the one that's quite campy with the hill on one side and the railway in the middle. That's how I know it. Whereas the other one that's quite campy, it's also got a hill in it, but it's got a river in the middle, and that's Melanovka. So, and there's also Muravanka, which is also quite campy, but that one's got the forest on one side and a hill on the other. So there's a few subtle differences. Basically, one's got a forest, one's got a railway, the other one's got a river, but they're all pretty campy. So, here we are. We've got a decent player, and kudos to him. I want to give him a shout out. The T67 player on our team here. Now, I don't normally like T67s because they are quite stat padders, taxis of choice sort of vehicles. You see a lot of people that have got semi-good stats driving them because they know that basically they're great for farming WN8. You fire a few shots, you do a little bit of scouting, nothing can ever see you because the camo rating's obscene. It's really manoeuvrable, so you can go around and clear up a load of kills at the end of the game. They're just not a very, compared to the other tier 5 tanks that it goes up against, it's one of the best TDs. It's not particularly well balanced when you put it in line with everything else that it fights, but oh well, this is, you know, these things happen. But anyway, shout out to him. He played an absolute blinder, had a really good game, and this game is actually quite a long replay due to the fact that we kind of start running out of ammunition. To give you an idea of just how long this replay actually is, when you start running out of shells and you have to really start worrying about the rate in which you're firing them, and start to worry about sort of shell conservation a little bit, and thinking, oh, do I want to take this shot? Oh, no, I'm not sure. If it doesn't do damage, then I've lost another shell. So it got to that stage in the game. So the replay's quite long. As I say, the beginning of the game was a little bit quiet. Usual for Prokhorovka when you're playing a TD. It's quite sort of, you know, you have to take your time, you have to move cautiously. Now, properly into the game. Now I've apologised and been humble for the fact that this game is a little bit campy and it's a campy bush, campy TD. In with the game. So, it's 4 kills to us, 5 to the enemy at the moment. 2 to the T67 driver, so great success for him. And I've just pushed up now to the sort of ED line in support of the guys that are pushing forward and spotting things. I want to basically, the way to play this TD is to move up just behind, sorry, not really just behind, but behind your assault force that are going forward, the things that are spotting for you, and you basically play as a support gun. So when I'm engaging a target, my ideal range for engaging that target is at the limit of my render range, basically, because that way there's very little chance of the enemy team being able to spot me in return when I'm shooting at them, because this thing cannot take being shot at. The armour is poop, and as you can see, with 380 hit points, in a tier 5, tier 6 game like this, there's things on the enemy team that can one-shot you in the form of sort of KV2s and stuff like that. And if you've got KV85s with the 122mm gun, they can quite easily one-shot you. You are below their average damage roll, because they roll for 390 on the 122mm gun. You've got 380 health. If they hit you and they roll just below their average damage or their average or high, they're going to one-shot you. So you have to bear that in mind when you play. So anyway, I fired a few blind shots. Now the blind shots really did count in this game. You'll see by the in-game score screen, because when we finish this game, you'll see one damage figure. And then when we go into the in-game score screen, you'll see a completely different damage figure, which was great. So it's nice to know when you get those games where you're putting shots in and you're taking a bit of a risk by firing blind, but you get rewarded at the end of the game by thinking, oh yeah, lovely, you know, quite a lot of those blind shots I actually fired hit their mark and racked up my damage a bit more, so great success. So anyway, the game has gone a bit south. Nobody went to the E6 line, which is always a great place to go for any team. You need to spot the middle, because if you don't spot the middle on this map, the hill will automatically lose, because it'll, as well as fighting the guys that are face to face with them actually on the hill, what you'll end up doing is getting flanking fire from sort of F6, E6, depending on what side of the map you are, and spots from that range as well, and you'll have people shooting you in the side when you're trying to engage the guys on the hill. I've been there myself in hold down heavy tanks and stuff, and it is not pleasant. If your team sort of backfires on you and doesn't spot that crucial part of the middle of the map, the hill's gonna be lost before you even get there. So that is indeed what happened. Our team lost horrifically on the hill, and we were down 7-10 at one point. So now we've just brought it back up to 9-10. I've just picked up my third kill, 659 damage done. A few blind shots went in, nice blind kill on a KV-85 that you saw a little while ago. And now we've got to try and dig in, because there's myself, the T67, a KV-1 who's not a particularly strong player, an M8A1 who wasn't a particularly strong player either, but fair play to him, he really gave it a good go. He really did contribute and was doing his best with a little tier 4, so bless him. And we've also got a KV2, but I'm pretty sure this KV2 isn't long for the world. And we've just had an 86 pop over the ridge, and he wants to come and play. Sorry, an 88, beg your pardon. So he gets tracked on top of the railway line, but unfortunately, due to the angle that he's at, it's like literally the worst angle for this gun. You can see I'm carrying quite a large stock of premium APCR ammo in this thing. I carry 20 rounds in this thing, because the standard penetration of this gun is actually not very good. It's 119mm of standard pen on the AP rounds. And considering it has to be played like quite a lurky, campy bush hugger of a TD, you're always going to be sort of 400 plus meters, or between 300 and 500 meters away from the things you're shooting at. And of course, penetration dwindles down over range. So you're going to be losing a lot of that pen at range. So you end up hitting something with like 80 pen or something, and you're not going to pen it. As you can see, there's lots of shots that are bouncing, there's lots of shots that are being sponged of the premium ammo at the range that I'm shooting, so not so good. But anyway, we put down the 88, and we put down the I think it was another M8A1 that they sent over the railway. So now we're actually leading by a kill. But as you can see, the ammo situation is getting quite low. I know the T67's running pretty low on ammo. I've got 8 standard shots, 7 premium shots, and 6 HE shots left. And the rate of fire on this thing, every shot every 3.88 seconds, means that you chew through the ammo pretty quickly. Being a Russian TD, the accuracy is 0.42, I think, off the top of my head. I haven't checked, but I think pretty sure that's accuracy. And considering when you factor that in with the range that you're normally engaging targets from, you tend to miss a lot of shots, but it makes up for it in DPM in rate of fire. As I say, the downside we already discussed is the fact that it doesn't have a lot of penetration on the gun. So the DPM only works for you if you can get the shots to pen, which is a trick when you're firing at things at a long range. So it's a bit of a catch-22. I'll be honest, until this game came up, I'd had a few sort of 3000 WN8 level games that were okay, but nothing spectacular, nothing really great. And to be honest, I wasn't really getting on very well with this TD. It's not really my sort of play style. I like to be quite aggressive, get up in people's faces, constantly push the enemy back and push our team forward. This doesn't do that. You're constantly relying on being behind somebody else, waiting for them to swap things for you, so then you can add a bit of lending fire in, and yeah, not really my style. But as I say, I wasn't having a particularly good time with this TD, and then all of a sudden this game came up, and I was like, okay, no problem. So in the game, as you can see, the damage that I've done doesn't look particularly impressive. I've done 1483 at the moment, doesn't look particularly great, but I was pleasantly surprised by the end of the game. The thing that really stood out for me in this game, and why I wanted to highlight it before I even saw what the result was the fact that basically me and the T67 work really well together in the latter stages of this game. Starting about now, we really start communicating with each other about ammo situation, positioning, that sort of thing, and yeah, we take the game for a win, which is great. It's very unlikely that you actually get this sort of interaction on the EU server because there's just so many countries that play together. The language barrier is a massive strain on the EU server, and most people don't speak English. Unfortunately, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite myself here, and I only speak English, and not to a particularly high standard, as you've probably seen from some of my past replays. But we actually start communicating well, and I just pick up my 5th kill. That puts me on 1725 damage, and I'm just communicating to the T67 now that I'm starting to get direly low on ammo. I've got 4 AP shots left, 6 HE, but there's an enemy Churchill 7 left. Nobody's really seen much of him for the entire game because he was one of the guys that came over the hill. So from our perspective, we haven't seen a lot of him. We don't know what his health situation's like. Once we finally get eyeballs on him, it turns out that he is pretty much full health. So this is starting to look a bit bad. Now, I was a little bit disappointed in this game because I was so close to getting the top gun and so close to getting a Faden's medal. It was untrue. It was literally down to it. And you'll see the unreliability of HE shells in this game as well rear its ugly head in a minute as I'm running out. I'm just firing my second from last AP shell. So that goes in. 100 I'm taking careful aim because I'm trying to make the shells count. That one bounces the last shell. So then I aim with a HE, first HE shell, I hit for 117 damage. Lovely, he's on 38 health, so I think, lovely, I'll kill him now. Oh no, 11 damage. Right, so I'm desperately looking somewhere I can pen him. Oh, fire again on the green. No, 9 damage. And then the KV-1 kills him. So I was 3 shells away from being able to get the top gun and possibly a Faden's. But let's have a look at the in-game score screen. So here we are at the in-game score screen for the SU-85 game we just watched on Prokhorovka. I'm probably pronouncing that map name wrong, but as I say, I'm not Russian. So here we are. That turned out was my ace tanker, was the mastery badge there in the SU-85i, which was great because, as I was saying, I was having an awful time with this thing before. It doesn't suit my play style. It's not really my cup of tea. But hey ho, just goes to show that every dog has its day. You get it onto a campy, horrible, longed out map like Prokhorovka, and even a campy tank destroyer with no armour and hit points can do well. So every dog has its day. Also picked up a high caliber there, as well as a fire for effect, a fighter badge for getting 4 or 5 enemy vehicle destroyers in 1 kill, and a bruiser for generally annoying people and knocking out their modules, blowing their tracks off, etc. So let's have a look at the team score page. On the team score page you can see that was 1445 base experience, which is a really nice game in this, considering we weren't even top tier. The penetration on this gun is a bit poo. We were fighting against tier 6s, great success. So it was 2,957 damage total. At the point where the game ended, I think there was about 1,800, something around that line on the clock. So an extra 1,000 damage in blind shots really was quite rewarding to know that my eye was in that game. So I managed to hit quite a few of those blind shots. Really racked up that extra damage, which really helped me. Picked up 5 kills, which got us the fighter badge. As you saw right at the end there, was so close to picking up the top gun. I didn't want to ask the KV-1 to hold his fire, but he was a bit of a bad player, so I doubt he would have done anyway. As you can see, he only did 1,203 damage, and he got 4 kills out of it. So basically, he kill secured all of the things just when when you always get that time in World of Tanks where they're down to a 1 shot left, and no matter what you do, that last shot you fire won't penetrate, even though the last like 25 that you fired into it before that all go in no problem. As soon as they're a 1 shot, you can't kill them. I had that with the Churchill. I had that with the KV-85 that I was shooting, who came first through the sort of middle of the map. I tracked him, penetrated him, I think 2 or 3 times through his front drive wheel in a row, and then as soon as he became a 1 shot, No, couldn't pen him, and then the KV1 finished him off. So, you know, sometimes I can't really moan about the RNG in this game on this particular replay, just because of the fact that it worked out so nicely in the end. But it could have been just a little bit sweeter if the game had smiled on me a little bit more. But error 404, Hand of Stalin not found, and RNG doesn't really like me too much as a player anyway. I'm not one of those insanely lucky people that just every shot they fire miraculously finds its way into the commander's face. I'm not really that sort of guy, but hey ho, it was a good round anyway. I can't really moan. And shout out to the T67, as I say, even though he was driving the Stat Padder's Taxi of Choice tank there, he did almost 2k damage, got himself 2 kills, and did 1269 damage because he got a lot of spotting. So fair play to him. He picked up the patrol duty as well. So great success. And the little M8A1, who bless, he tried his luck. You know what I mean? He did his best. He only did 455 damage. But bear in mind, he's a tier 4 in a tier 6 game. He picked up the Confederate medal because he basically, I think, went round blowing everybody's tracks off, which made it easier for all the rest of our team, or the two of us and the KV1, to apply the damage to them once he'd pinned them in place. So fair play to him. Even though he didn't have a massive role in the game, he really did try. So hats off to you, Iron Hat. Hats off to you, Iron Hat. Didn't even realise his name was Iron Hat. Alright, let's have a look at the detailed report. On the detailed report, you can see that was 55 shots fired. I only had 3 shots left, which were all HE shells, and I've now amended my ammo loadout. I don't carry quite so much HE after that game. It sort of taught me a bit of a lesson. A few more AP rounds and I would have killed that Churchill quite easily, but I was carrying 6 HE for the times that you sometimes come up against soft-skinned vehicles in the form of sort of TDs yourself, enemy TDs, and things like a Nashorn or something like that, having a few extra HE shells. Bearing in mind that this gun's only sort of 120, I think it is, or something like that, average damage. I'm not entirely sure. It's just over 100. It's not a particularly high alpha damage gun. I think it might actually be 160, but of course, as I say, me being a lucky person that I am, it rarely rolls high for me. So I don't think it's that high. I'll have to check. Well, you guys can check. You'll see for yourselves if you're going to buy one. Incidentally, it's on offer from the Advent calendar today. If you watch this video today, this very TD is up with it's about €10, I think, and you get some premium time with it as well as a garage slot. It's an okay deal. It's not brilliant, but it's all right. We fired 55. We hit, out of the 55 we fired, we hit 43, and out of the 43 we penned 28. So that sort of explains to you why I had so much in the way of APCR ammunition in this tank. The penetration is very, very lackluster. It will bounce and not penetrate things at tier 5 when it's top tier, let alone when you're in a tier 6 game. But at the end of the day, we ended up with 2,957 damage, so almost 3,000 damage. Great success. We damaged 10 enemy vehicles that game, and we destroyed 5. And we also did almost 1,000 assistance damage, 937 assistance damage in the form of blowing people's tracks off ourselves. So that really helped out for the end result. That cost, I basically made 65,800 credits that game, but I spent 59,782 on ammunition. Still made a profit with a premium account of 6,000 credits, so can't really argue too much there. And experience-wise, as you saw, that was 1,445 base, which is a really nice base experience. It's not super duper duper, but it's a really good round. If you can get sort of over 1,400 base, it's normally going to be a pretty good round. That was my ×3 for the day as well, because there was an event on. So that actually netted me, with my premium account, 7,367 experience. Great success. Now, of course, this was a replay that was 9.4, so I wanted to get this up as soon as possible. It's quite a rare thing. You don't see too many of these, mainly because of the thing is, A, it's a premium tank, so you've got to buy it with in-game gold or money, and B, it's not very good. So bear that in mind if you're watching this thinking, I'll get one of these. It's an acquired taste. You've really got to be into that lurky bush campy TD. It is quite frustrating, as I say, because the combination of the lack of armour and lack of hit points means you have to sit back at range, coupled with the fact that the gun is very low penetration, and being a Russian gun, it's not very accurate. When you couple the fact that it's got to sit back at range with the fact that it's not got a lot of pen and not very accurate, that's where it gets frustrating. It is quite a frustrating little machine. I think I've worked out an average that for every 3 shots I fire, you'll pen 1 for damage. So read between the lines with that one and decide whether or not you want to buy it, although it is on offer now. Now, of course, I've been Pricie. You guys have been awesome. If I don't upload another video before the time comes, I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, season's greetings, and a Happy New Year. I will try to get another video up before the big day comes. But in case I don't know what my schedule is going to be like. Have yourself a great Christmas and a very, very Happy New Year. And I'll see you on the battlefield, whether it be in the snow or in January. Alright, take care. See you later, and I'll see you on the next one.